Good day, everyone. You're welcome to another exciting moment. My name is Oladile Michael, a literature in English teacher. And today, the topic we will be considering is an analysis of Agostinho Neto's The Grieved Lands of Africa. This is an African poem, and I want us to be attentive as we are set to obtain or achieve the following objectives. We should be able to discuss the poet and the poem's backgrounds. We should be able to state the setting of Neto's The Grieved Lands of Africa. Students should be able to expatiate the subject matter and stance analysis of the poem. And students should be able to carefully enumerate the themes of the poem. And lastly, students should be able to identify the structure of the poem. All these objectives are achievable. Now, let's proceed as we read the poem, The Grieved Lands of Africa. The grieved lands of Africa, in the tearful woes of ancient and modern slave, in the degrading sweat of impure dance of other seas, grieved. The grieved lands of Africa, in the infamous sensation of the stunning perfume of the flower, crushed into the forest by the wickedness of iron and fire, colonization, the grieved lands. The grieved lands of Africa, in the dream soon undone, in jingling of jailers' keys, and in the stifled laughter and victorious voice of laments, and in the unconscious brilliance of hidden sensations of the grieved lands of Africa, alive in themselves and with us alive. They bubble up in dreams, decked with dances by baobabs, over balances, by the antelope, in the perpetual alliance of everything that lives. They shout out the sound of life, shout it, even the corpse thrown up by the Atlantic, in portrait offering of incoherence and death, and in the clearness of rivers. They leave the grieved land of Africa, in the harmonious sound of consciences contained in the honest blood of men, in the strong desire of men, in the sincerity, in the pure and simple rightness of the star's existence. They leave the grieved lands of Africa because we are living and are imperishable particles of the grieved lands of Africa. It is an interesting poem. And for the poet to have said they leave the grieved lands of Africa because we are living and are imperishable particles. The poet lived even to witness the freedom and liberation of his country, Angola. So, as I always tell you, that every writer is a product of his or her experience. Let's delve into the historical background of the poet. First of all, Agostinho Neto was born in September 17, 1922 and died on 10th September 1979 in Moscow, Russia. By career, Neto was a politician, a doctor, and poet. He was a medical doctor by profession, a poet, and a politician. He happened to be the first president of the People's Republic of Angola from 1975 to 1979. He led the popular movement for the liberation of Angola, MPLA, which later won the independence of Angola and dominated the civil war, which lasted for decades. Because of Neto's political view and because of his service to his people, he was imprisoned. While Neto was in prison, he wrote many of his poems in an anthology called Sacred Hope. Is this not an interesting story? So, Let us also delve into the background to the poem. African land in its entirety is said to be aggrieved because of two reasons. First, the over 400 years of human slavery, and second, the over 100 years of colonialism. During slavery, millions of Africans were exported to different parts of the world. Wherever you find blacks other than Africa, it must have been they were originally there by force. As I said earlier, another thing which the continent of Africa experienced was the over 100 years of colonialism. During this period, the European powers or colonial masters ruled over the land. This ruling is the outcome of the 1884 Berlin Conference, where the European powers scrambled and partitioned Africa for colonization. Although most African countries gained their independence from these European powers by negotiations, some others, including Angola, Agostinho Neto's country, secured their independence through war. The protagonist of the poem serves as a voice of reason, a protest against the unfairness and injustice meted out to the lands of Africa. This is very interesting. There are some write-ups that indicate or show to us the causes of colonization of Africa. For instance, Rhodes' Confession of Faith in 1884 reads thus: I contend that we Britons are the first race in the world, and the more of the world we inhabit, the better it is for the human race. It is our duty to seize every opportunity of acquiring more territory, and we should keep this one idea steadily before our eyes, that more territory simply means more of the Anglo-Saxon race, more of the best, the most human, most honorable race the world possesses. According to him, they wanted to make more Britons. They wanted to seize more lands. They wanted to dominate more territories. Let's check another one. Kaiser Wilhelm, in A Place in the Sun in the year 1901, says, in spite of the fact that we have no such fleet as we should have, we have conquered for ourselves a place in the sun. It will now be my task to see to it that this place in the sun shall remain our undisputed possession, in order that the sun's ray may fall fruitfully upon our activity and trade in foreign parts, that our industry and agriculture may develop within the state, and our sailing sports upon the water, for our future lies upon the water. The more Germans go out upon the waters, whether it be in races or regattas, whether it be in journeys across the ocean or in the service of the battle flag, so much the better it will be for us. So they saw the urgency in it for the Germans to go out there to conquer more lands, to enslave more citizens of other continents for their own future. So there are some other reasons mentioned by these European powers. Another one is on this page, but time will not permit me to read all of them. Look at it. You can go through them and they will give you insights to causes of colonization of Africa. Okay, let's delve into stanzas analysis. Okay, before stanza analysis, we have the setting to look into. What is the setting of the grieved lands of Africa? As we all know, the setting of a work of art is the time, the place, the psychological occurrences around any work of art is what we refer to as the setting of that poem. So physically, we can say the setting of this poem is Africa, which is said to be aggrieved due to centuries of slavery and a century of colonization. Socially, the time is when civilization was not yet in vogue in Africa, and Africans were dealt with as if they were merchandise. They were used, they were expended, they were exported in their millions in ships. Psychologically, the poem accounts for the ancient and modern times of slavery, when Africans were made to suffer psychological and mental slavery in Africa and among blacks, where Africans or blacks depend on the West for aid or solutions. The poem addresses the time when Africans, like Neto, had to suffer imprisonment as they regularly held the jingle of jailers' keys and experienced stifled laughter and victorious violence or voice of lament. Hope at last kept them balanced. So that is the setting of this poem. Look at this picture. The picture depicts the Africans under slavery. Look at the two freed men on the two sides. They were freed and they were making these ones to work in order to better their own lives. Okay, let's go into the subject matter of the poem. The poem focuses on the grieved lands of Africa. It recalls the centuries of the anguish and agonies the European power made Africa to experience. That is why the poet calls it the terrible woes of ancient and modern slaves. The sad time graduated, that is, the sad time of slavery did not stop, it graduated to colonialism. That was the means by which the European powers committed atrocities, the means by which they ruled over the lands of Africa. They committed atrocities against Africans on their own soil. This is due to their selfishness and the fake civilization that they promised. That is the subject matter of this poem. Here is the picture of the Europeans sitting down watching the Africans working for them and exploiting them. Okay, stanza 1. Stanza 1 is loaded. Africa is sad because it has been taken advantage of. It has a history of slavery and being made to do the work of other countries or seas. They were enslaved. The first three stanzas talk about the degradation of Africa by slavery, imperialism, colonialism, and westernization. The poet decries the negative effects of Western influence on Africa. In line 2, the poet says, in the terrible woes of ancient and modern slave. In this line, the ancient refers to the physical slavery when men and women were forcefully moved out of the land of Africa to different parts of the world. The modern slave, as mentioned by the poet, refers to the present psychological and mental slavery in Africa and among blacks, where Africans or blacks depend on the West for any little solutions. This is seen as the psychological acceptance of Western values, culture, dressing, lifestyle, health, and so on and so forth, as the standard of measuring success and achievement. a lot of Africans have discovered treatment for COVID-19, but their discoveries have not been made as the standard for achieving victory over COVID-19. What a pity. Stanza 2 is also loaded as it shows us how the European domination destroyed the forest, the flowers, through their iron and fire. Here, the poet decries the elimination of the valuable things, valuable culture, beauty, custom, and land of Africa by colonialism and westernization. He uses the symbol of flower in stanza 2. The symbol of flower and forest. This is seen in lines 7, 8, 9, and 10. The poet says, in the infamous sensation of the stunning perfume of the flower crushed in the forest by the wickedness of iron and fire. Iron and fire here refer to the fierce way the colonialists and imperialists imposed themselves on Africa. These moves destroyed the beautiful flora and fauna of Africa land, hence they grieve. The ever-blossoming African beauty and teeming African youth, customs and culture represented by flowers were crushed by civilization. This made Africans lose their identity, crushed in the forest. Here, stanza 3 is also not exempted. It's also loaded. Here, the poet bemoans the destruction of African dreams. All those blacks sold into slavery had their own dreams, which were stilled out by slavery. The land grieves for her children, as they and their dreams are sold into slavery. What a pity. Also, the Africans under the colonialist administration were exiled to prevent them from attaining their dreams in their fatherland. The poet Neto was sent to Cape Verde for exile amidst his struggle for the liberation of Angola. If you can remember, Nelson Mandela was put in jail for about 29 years in his own country because of the apartheid policy. This was the fate of most other African and black nationalists fighting for the liberation and independence of their countries. In line 13, the poet says, in a dream soon undone, in jingling of Gola's keys. A Gola is a jailer, and they move about with bunches of keys. In stanzas 4 and 5, the poet begins to express hope. Let's see. From stanza 4 to 7, the poet presents the resilient spirit of Africa in the face of oppression. The poet speaks of hope and survival. The poet says, they shout out the sound of life. Shout it, even the corpse thrown up by the Atlantic. This is exaggeration or hyperbole. The poet suggests that Africa is notwithstanding the years of her subjugation to European powers. He then reveals these in lines 23 to 25. This is the picture of Orlando Ekwano. Ekwano was from Edo and was sold into the land of slavery in Britain at a younger age. While in the land of slavery, Orlando negotiated his freedom and was later given. There in Britain, he married and had 2 children. So a lot of Africans like that were resilient and they negotiated for their freedom. Let's see what happens in stanzas 6 and 7. Okay, stanzas 6 and 7 are also loaded. The innocent blood of blacks shed during slavery and the quest for independence are sacrificial to the survival of the black nations. We cannot forget the effort of Nelson Mandela. Hence, new stars are rising from strong desire of men to repossess the land and appease the grieved land. No wonder one of the former powerful presidents came from Africa. This is the person of Barack Obama, as his picture shows down here. Lines 40 to 41, because we are living and are imperishable particles. So the poet concludes by stating that Africa is an indefatigable part of the earth. It's a continent that can never be defeated. Every day, every moment, our children are making marks. They are indefatigable parts of the earth which cannot be annihilated, and Angola is a great part of it, the poet confesses. Okay, the poem has 7 stanzas, and we have exhausted the 7 stanzas. Each stanza is loaded. So we will continue from the next slide to look into the themes, the language and style, and the structure of the poem. I hope you enjoy yourself. So I want you to be attentive as we move to the next parts of the slide. Thank you very much.